with another episode of Unzip, Reboot, and Leave podcast. Today we have someone who is very special to me. I know this gentleman for last 2 decades. He was actually one of our tutors in our uni days in Gold Coast, Griffith University, Dr. Ranadhir Ghosh. He is currently in US, though he lived in Melbourne and in Australia for a while. So he is now currently working as a director in data science in a FinTech company. But his interest in academia and industry goes hand in hand. Nearly 80 research publication and 30 patents underway. And his philosophy is Steven Strogatz's philosophy, which is like mixing philosophy, politics, math, science together. So nothing more than that. On that, welcome, Ranadhir. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for having me. It's really pleasure to talk to you after so long.
Yeah.
Uh,
So today we will discuss. So it's not a question answer. We will discuss about AI and what is coming, what is happening. And I have some opinion with my intellect, with my research. I found some opinion around it. And as you are in that game for last 2 decades, I will basically kind of want to know what's your opinion. Sometimes we may agree, sometimes we may disagree. It's all fine, but it will be enlightening experience for our audience. So basically, we will try to see AI is nothing but evolution of nature. Okay, and in my opinion, AI is actually follow the same process of natural selection, procreation, if you like, behaving like a same living organism or behaving exactly like man-made tools, what we have done before. So we will go to that. But to go there, before we start to go into the deeper thing, just basic some questions. So AI is another technology, right? Why so much fuss or so much buzz around it now?
yeah, that's a good question, Gautam. If you really look into all the technological evolution, that technology people always look that as the big hype for themselves. But whether from the user perspective, it has been the same hype now. But AI obviously has been a different game changer. And why is that? Because because some of the things I think people are encountering these days with AI, because it is fundamentally challenging some of the things that what make human as what we are, right? So this is why it has been at the core of human society today, to understand what is that. Because for the first time, to put it very simple, for the first time, um, human civilization has developed a tool which can decide to take an action by themselves, so which has never happened before. And the repercussion of this can be something exponential after this, because something now we can see that it is at the junction point where the path it can take from this point of time, it really can change the course of human civilization, right? So that's why I think it is definitely a very important question, and it is indeed an important thing to discuss. Yes.
Okay. In my experience, I always talk about car industries, okay, because in my opinion, that's the only industry which kind of get the innovation or automation first compared to any other industry. And that industry is very unique because if we are not seeing car prices are going up every year, rather is going down, but every year the facilities are going up. So it's a very complicated industry. Uh, but in car industry also, we are seeing a lot of people are getting engaged because a lot of people are buying cars or service or whatever. So what about jobs? Because there are a lot of talk about jobs will go away and industry will be hampered with this AI. What is your insight on that?
Yeah, though it is a very important question, but it's very difficult to answer, very quickly. But uh, to if I want to give my perspective, the answer will be different if you look into time frame. Like for example, if you look into a shorter time frame, like 10 years or 15 years, the answer will be very different. But when it comes to like maybe 30 years or 40 years time, it's very very difficult to answer, because we cannot have a definitive answer at this point of time, because a lot of it will depend on what actually human, as a human, we take a decision how to take an action at this point. So it will be really, if we say something, have you heard of chaotic theory, right? A butterfly flapping wings can create something, a tornado. So it is like that. So we cannot really predict 30, 40 years down the line. It's changing so much. But in really 10 to 15 years, in my opinion, we can say something about it. Like if you look into all these different technology, and if it is only, like it has created some additional additional things for human to do. So yes, it has displayed many things, but it has created a lot of opportunities for human to do something else. Because like at the basic of everything is, we need to have decision. Civilization has taken a decision, whether it has been done in consensus or not. But now we don't have much option, but definitely something we have to keep upskilling, and there is no choice. So we have to upskill ourselves, and different type of job will be will be created, obviously replacing many of these old jobs. And the type of jobs, really, if you really think, uh, so if you think of the jobs which are really information in and information out, this is the kind of job will be automated very very closely. But there will be something where a lot of something that needs to be changed, not from information to information, but for example a lot of planning and execution, and with some very different type of emotional value attached to it. And those are the things I think really need some time to really tackle. So still human will be in the loop. So it will not replace every type of job, but some type of job which has a repetitive pattern, and definitely those will be replaced. But at the same point of time, and think of this, that the way I see it is, it will be like human plus machine, who will be beat the human or machine by itself. So at least for next 10, 15 years, the game will be human plus machine, and or you can say human plus AI, which will be beating the human or AI itself. So that will go on for some time.
Now, then, like I also have another example of it, which is, let's say, port. Okay, there are a lot of porters used to work maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now it's all machines. Okay, the reason I'm giving this example, because then what will happen to the very low skilled people, which is nearly 10% of the population globally, who are not trainable, who are not skillable, who, it's hard for them will be, to survive in this world.
Definitely, it's definitely a very difficult question, and it's, we as a human being, we have a responsibility as a whole, like the society, the government. It's not a, not that technological, or technology itself will not give you any solution. It's a more of a governance solution, the political solution, and we as human, part of the human society, human civilization, will have to find an answer to that, whether it is in form of uh, you know something like a basic income, some sort of solution. We definitely need to think about this, because, but you think on otherwise, what will happen? Because as a human, we are on the path of growth, and constantly we are on this path of having more and more aspiration. So how we solve this problem? We have no solution other than to adopt technology. So that means you just think of as a human, we have a role to play to actually support our aspiration, and not as an individual aspiration. I'm talking about the human society as a whole. They have aspired, right? We so all of us have a role to play. So just to blame that, okay, now that I am as an individual have an aspiration because I know technology, I and no, it's we all part of it. So we are all connected. But yes, I mean, if for some reason we see a situation that biologically it is not possible for some section of the society, and human society, I mean, has been kind. If you really think of this, we are nature is much more aggressive than human being. Like for example, if there is a problem, a child, when the child is unborn baby, the child actually dies in from it is only a very less and less percentage of the number when the deformity happens, right, with the human being. But human as a society are not following like survival of the fitness always. At least we have some solution for them. We are not killing them just because somebody has a down syndrome. We're not killing them. So we definitely have some softer side also, to tackle that. So I'm hopeful, quite hopeful that when time will come and uh, every section of those subsection like will definitely be taken care of when it comes to that. Yes, something that we have to take care of those. But as I said, we have to also think from the other side. We as a whole, as a human being, our aspiration are growing, and all of us will have to play that role. And the only way we can do that when we really augment ourselves with this technological innovation and we make more and more output. Otherwise, like we have to have much less civilization. Just for example, like just think of this tomorrow. I mean, ideally, otherwise you have to cut like say two-thirds of our population. Is that a correct answer to say that? Okay, so we cannot do that. So that means, okay, we have to really take care of this so many number of our population. Our resource is limited, so technology is the only solution. Now obviously, technology does not have all the answer. It is just one dimension of the human problem. So we have to take that as dimension, and we have many other dimension to tackle what we are going to do. It is so neither the causality of the technology not the output of the technology is deterministic. It is the human who determines how we are going to, what motivates the technology, and what will be the output of the technology, what will be using, how we are going to use that technology. So it is just considered that as a dimension. So we cannot really put the blame, or if anything, we have to treat this as a human invention. And obviously there is a broader philosophical or spiritual angle. Probably we'll tackle that later, but it is a part of that invention, and we have to just think of this as just a part of this. So whatever it is, we have to take responsibility.
Okay, so on that, then the physical evolution I'm talking about, where we used to be on four legs, now bipedalism came over millions of years of evolution. But the thing is, like, it didn't make us stronger physically. Our brain also didn't become bigger. Only the neuron connections increased a lot, which basically give us thinking ability. And I personally believe that because of that, we are dominating over all other creatures. And we actually push our productivity, intellect boundaries all the time as a humanity. Somehow, AI's philosophy is also same, isn't it?
I think you have hit the nail. It's a very very important thing, because the answer lies, many of our answer lies, if you look into the civilization, human civilization. Even the sapiens, like Homo sapiens is the one of the sapiens. Like there are other sapiens also. There are 5 or 6 different type of sapiens, and when those sapiens were there initially, there are other animals also which are much bigger, like mammoth. Then there are other types, like elephant and mammoth were even bigger than elephant. So there is no way, I mean, we could overcome, or we could be at this stage if you would have like focused on biology. I don't know whether it was a very conscious decision that human civilization made, but something very strangely happened when like the bipedalism happened, because our hands became free, so we started making tools, and it worked as an augmenting our really capability, right? We are trying to improve our tools one after another. And then the second, I think, very interesting thing happened, like that if you look into even the brain of chimpanzee, right? The amount of energy, like the size of the brain and the amount of energy then they consume, it is much lower than, like size of the human brain, which is like nearly 2 pounds, and it like takes around more than 25% of our body energy. So no way this is, like a natural, optimization process you can think of. So either the nature gives us a lot of ability to, uh, to go through multiple dimensions for evolutions, and maybe, like it just happened that our civilization has uh, fallen into that one path. Maybe, it was not a very concise decision, because we did not think at that point of time. But whatever it is, it actually supported the human civilization. And today what we are seeing, everything, like obviously it's a human centric view. So everything we are seeing that as if, like we are at the center and we are seeing that. But the nature, if you look into that, there is nothing like a human at the center. No, for nature it doesn't happen. So really, if you now think of the evolution, one evolution is from our angle. Like if you really start thinking about the story of this evolution, say, which we are saying about the human centric evolution, like what we do, what our story does to our, with intelligent tools we are developing, what will be happen to the tool, what it will affect our nature, everything like that. So no more probably, nature is playing a role, obviously, because we are also playing a nature. So but these are two different things we are talking about. So which evolution we are talking? Is it the human centric evolution now we started talking about? Obviously we do not have a biological like control on everything the biology is happening around us, but definitely we are uh, we have already proved many things that change the normal course of action, right? Which probably, because like if you look into all the other animals, all the other sapiens, and definitely that kind of choice was not there. So we are, definitely unique in that sense, right? Um, yes, so definitely, when to answer your question short, that when you think about AI, right? So AI is, again, so this is the so far this has been, so far the human centric view of evolution, where we have created a tool which has reached a certain level of intelligence where it can take a decision by itself. Now where it goes from here, that in 30 years, 40 years down the line, this is something to see.
No,
It's very difficult.
that's why, because see, the human growth. Okay, now growth is also a story, right? Which again, as you said, like it's a
Absolutely.
human
Yes.
centric thing. It is our
Yes.
own story.
Yes.
And okay, let's say, let's part the story side of it. So our growth is maximum compared to other creatures. Now, what actually happened because of that? Our life or living became more and more easy. Now, what we did to the earth, deforestation happened, different agricultural thing happened, which basically pesticides and hormones and all these things come into the picture. Factories, machines, because of that, maybe climate change or ocean are getting dirtier. So all these things are happening. So as a humanity, I believe we don't know where to stop. Always something more.
Yeah.
And AI is also doing the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. There are many ways to look into this. I mean, one to answer the I think one way to answer the first is, when you say that yes, we growth is definitely, we have a most of our story of growth is very much one dimensional. It's so what we are considering that yes, we have achieved everything better from the, I don't think so. It's a, only growth probably, if you really think about all the dimension that we are as a human, I don't think that we have been able to, grow in all possible aspects. Yeah, there are certain aspects, and those aspects, I think, as a human aspiration. Now whether aspiration is part of biology, That also I do not know whether, because aspiration may be something as a part of our human brain which has imagined, which was not probably part of the original design, if there was a design in the first place. Like, for example, or because if you believe in Darwin, natural fitness or evolution, and so imagining this is definitely a very strong capability that human has got, and probably that is further creating this imagination of growth in certain ways, probably limiting. But there are many areas we probably have had started to having problem also. So we have to think of that now, whether in terms of controlling the thing, right? When you say the control, again, this is not for technology to answer, this is for human. We have to answer now. This is where I think we are. I have to bring the example of spirituality, or the metaphysical part of the spirituality, because that is very important. Because if, for example, let's say, without being spiritual, if we believe that our creation somehow will become, so we are so good that we are as the time progress, we are able to create a system with intelligent enough and which is smarter than us. You just imagine that at the early days of the philosophy, you ask the same question for God. I mean, is the God is so powerful that it can create something that is more powerful than itself? So now we are asking the same type of questions for us. So I think sometimes it's not always that like what we are trying to get, even through the field of technology and science, maybe it is like a mirror. What we asked from the philosophical point of view, metaphysical level, what we are as a human, so it is also helping us to see this from the spiritual level, to understand what we are, what actually make us different. So but what we do after this, that's a different question. But at least we now we have to answer that. Because, for example, like, if we believe that we can do that, so that is something, then that means, like, I mean, then how we think that, okay, if, for example, God has created us, we have become smarter than God. Now God doesn't, we don't need God anymore, right? So all the things, same story that we are, we can answer, it can apply to, to the spiritual, level. And even if the spiritual, from the spiritual angle also, if you believe that yes, there was a creator or something like that, and there also is a problem. Like, if, for example, if you think, okay, let us think of the spirituality. So there is a design, there was a designer, some design was created, and then if you can assume that still because the Darwin was already there, so probably the designer is not required anymore, it is gone now, right? If we believe like that, so then why we needed that, that kind of designer does not need to be that powerful, right? Because we have proved ourselves that we do not need that kind of a strong designer. Like that, when we build the basic intelligence system, what we needed, some basic, really basic things, right? Technology is 500 years old. So are we, I mean, just imagine, like, if you really think of very long span, right? And our intelligence, after, let's say, if you believe that we will still be evolving, our intelligence will evolve in 500 years, we probably will so much intelligence. Now we are nothing. So how much powerful really God was to create us 500, like those many, like million years back. So just imagine the power of that God, right? So both, from this spiritual angle and both from this scientific angle, they one another, like, it is trying to give a mirror where it is contradicting itself, both of them. So either they have to converge, and that's the only way I see. At some point of time, we have to converge. But having said that, in terms of the decision what we make, again, this is again up to us. It is because we have seen that nature does not have a very definite path of evolution. It is different animals, they have had their own path of evolution, we have had our own path of evolution, and those might be all of our choice. We, maybe, like, in subconscious mind or whatever, we have made that decision, and that decision is not over. So we are continuously making this over and over again through our evolution journey. So it will happen again when we are dealing with this AI.
Okay. Now, you touched upon the God thing, which I have a special question. We will go to that bit later. But before that, uh, all right. So before AI, at least what I know of, there is no other technology has the capability of decision making. Now, your hero, Steven Stugatz, what he says is there are always patterns and which are hidden. Mathematics basically can suck it out to the world. Now, AI also looking for pattern, and now it is giving decisions. So with analytics and patterns. Now that means in future, all the intellectual pattern-based decision will dominate. Our intuition, our guts will will go to the roof or what?
Again,
Or
like,
again,
first of
or
all,
it's just a
yeah,
like human-centric thinking I'm doing.
yeah, absolutely. So this question, you have to, I think the way I will answer this is from, again, most of these things we have to first decide why we are asking this. Is it because we have a very strong human centric view of the world, or it is just from natural point? Really, when you think about artificial intelligence by itself, using the word artificial is a very human centric view, because we believe that only a biological system is intelligent enough, right? So that definition itself can be challenging if, for example, someone from space comes here and they will not take our definition of artificial intelligence. Okay, so for that, for example, a species which is closer to, for example, plant, right? Just imagine that they have come here, they are very similar, their genetic configuration almost like 99 point something like that. They come to earth and they see us, they will consider probably us, our intelligence, as an artificial intelligence. Okay, so anyway, so that itself, using the term artificial, so intelligence, when you say about intelligence, and it is not a concrete definition, it has changed. So if you, the way, the whole idea of intelligence, like, it can be really varied. We still are trying to figure out, when what should be the different way we can measure intelligence and all, because there are different type of intelligence, right? And so on. So now, coming to one type of intelligence where really human were very good, and it obviously, like, decision making. Now the question is, I don't think it is the what is fundamental. It is not that how complex we can take the decision, because that will change through the evolution. I think what is fundamentally different is how we make that decision, and that is emotionally driven. Like, if you really think of that, we have in our brain, we have hypothalamus, we have amygdala, which actually takes part into this whole emotional driven process. So the input we get, there is circuitry, and this circuit, takes all this, sensory input, it processes through the emotional circuit, and then it provides. Whereas in AI system, right, non-biological system I'm talking about, yeah, they are mainly the input, and it's there is no further circuitry. It's a direct input output relationship. So output is a function of input, and it is a direct output input relationship, and this is where fundamentally it is driven. So because this fundamental limitation, there are two things that happens. One is, if you think of anything that is complex, the complexity comes is level of derivation. So anything that is first order derivative, it is less complex than something which is first, like a second order. So that means, the higher order function that you have, that makes things more and more complex, right? So that is why the complexity we see for, like, what we can do is definitely something more than the others artificial thing, just because, we have, as I say, the second order functions, higher order, functions. And whereas this, non-biological thing, they have a direct input out relationship. So obviously, very very quickly, what we can achieve something if we try to, function this ultimately, if you believe the intelligent as a function, ultimately, if you think everything as a function, whether it is intelligence, emotion, if you can build this function, right, if you can, somehow convert that, if you convert that into a function, then their power will become exponential. And obviously, I don't see any, reason why, there will be any difference, now what we make in biologically or something like that. Because if we can, for example, just add that one layer of emotion or motivation, because they don't have any individual like self motivation to grow, and which now we are controlling. But that is like 30, again, as I said, I don't know, again, 30-40 years, whether it can be less than that, but definitely it's not 10 years, or I don't think it will happen 10 years, at least no 30-40 years, if we think of having motivation in those non-biological um, tool. So yes, so there will be some differences, but in terms of complexity, it will definitely, it will just, if anything, it will increase and increase and increase, because we will be like controlling that. But once we are able to model that motivation thing, that like, that will then play a very, very different game, and that will not come automatically. In this technology, just having more and more intelligent, that doesn't give them the power to try for more and more for themselves. So that is a very fundamental difference. They can be more intelligent than us in certain areas. So, but the motivation will not come directly, even though, at some level, even if you think of what is the difference, like there are also, like a proton, electron, atoms, there are also some circuitry. But I think that the whole thing, that the biology, whether it is a consciousness or something, which are fundamentally, you can think of, we have some kind of a, fundamental elements that driving us. There is significant different with these circuits, where, because we might be starting with a transistor, right? We might be, it is a very different path we have taken for this artificial intelligent tools, where we as a human, maybe we have started from a very basic fundamental matter, right? So, and somehow, just think of this, a very abrupt point, where we have started their evolution by us, and maybe with the transistor circuitry and so on, so on. So it's definitely not the same path. And so that path to evolve into a automatic to have a self-driven system, it will not happen automatically. So it will require some kind of interaction, and which probably we're looking. Think of a biological evolution, how we have come to this. It's a like a billion of years. So if this technology, 500 years or something like that, so nothing. So even if you think of that as to come as an automatic way, and leave it to the nature, saying that, okay, we have done enough for you, you are intelligent now, you just keep writing code, we are not doing anything, you just we leave it, and they will, let's say 10 or 15 agents, they are competing against themselves, and it is a, just imagine a simulated agentic world, and they are writing code themselves, and probably millions of years later, and we don't touch that system and leave it like millions of years, and the code and all, everything, we hope that one day, probably, like, they will get their motivation. Who knows? Maybe yes, because the interaction, it is the goal is in the interaction, and because like the way the atoms interact themselves, bring a molecule, and from that, like inorganic molecule, we come to the organic molecule, and so on. So the power comes from the interaction. So if we really have the agentic system and leave them communication, like, things can change, and we don't know, because ultimately fundamental particles are the same. It is just a different you know path in the evolution. We have taken sort of a like a cut the evolution process, and place somewhere else. So yeah, so I don't see any difference really, that we are special. We are, just because we have reached certain stage where we are very special. We are just at some point,
Yeah.
and they are at different point, that our creation. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and another, like you have a very, like, a optimistic point of view towards it. I also have a very optimistic point of view towards it overall. Another thing which I noticed is definitely who kind of going about eradication of extreme poverty. Okay, so by 2030 they are trying to do that, and which actually like happening, because in 1990 there are around 200, like 2 billion people living in poverty. In 2019 it's like 0.7 billion, so it's less than half. And in September 22, from a dollar 90 it went up to $2.15. the international poverty line is shifted. So, as a whole, whatever with the technology, a evolution happen, the whole humanity is going up slowly. And in my opinion, it will definitely happen more faster down the line. How you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. I think, again, I mean, this is when you say that, okay, there are few different ways to look into it. Are you talking about the discrepancies that, okay, the haves, between haves and have-nots? Because that is not something for technology to answer, because it is about the distribution of resources. This is something for human creation, the society we have formed, the government we have formed. So this is up to us, for them to really think of how to properly create those systems. Technology, we can only say, okay, does it provide augmentation to the human capability? The answer is yes. For example, think of a like a blind person, the person who cannot see things, but it is possible today to use the technology and help them to understand their surrounding. So there are many examples where technology can augment human capability, right? So there is no doubt, that is why what we see that only because of the use of this technology, our intake, the consumption, we could actually reach to this stage, and we have moved from a survival necessity to our aspiration stage, and our aspiration, just because of this technology. Just imagine the growth of the human population. Still, it has uplifted all of us. So but sometimes you might ask question, then why the discrepancies are going? But that is not something for technology to answer. It because technology is our creation, so our society. So we cannot, our creation, one creation cannot answer another creation. Okay, like this is no, it's not like that. Both of them are our creation, so we have to take care of them. We have to tell, look, I mean, this is how we are going to solve this matter. Now, again, as I said, that the human society, I mean, I'm still positive, obviously, like that over time we'll find we need to come up with a solution taking care of something, because ultimately at the end of the day, if you really look into the fundamental, um, I mean, the main reason why human society evolved like that and became so powerful. You can think of bipedalism, yes, you can think of brain, but like what the understanding has given, that we are connected to each other. If we have not connected, like from, if you look into any animals, like they form a group of 5 and 6, but you look at humans. So now, at least from the connection point of view, the whole human civilization, they're all connected. Now it is a different point altogether, the connection does not equal to harmony, but that's a different point. And because that is again something, we have to solve our own problem, right? They are not solving all our problem. At least they are solving some of our problem, but we cannot just create and something, hey, you solve all of our problem. So we can't do that. So yeah, it is doing what it is supposed to do, because but we have to take responsibility.
Another like a extreme hope. I mean, it's in this hope spectrum. I would like to see, because I'm also hopeful around that. So one big thing we have done as a humanity is eradication of malnutrition. Pretty much. I mean, whatever is there, it's because of the politics, not because of anything else. Okay. Many diseases gone. Okay. Simultaneously, we also created culture, art, economical upliftment. Um, with this decision making and information access, uh, the way evolution steps are happening towards, more and more and all these things, can we hope for universal health, free education, free food, and free shelter for all throughout humanity? Because anyway, like now we are what, 8 point something billion? It will not go up. I mean, people had already started saying it will not touch 9 billion, and it's like start dipping down. How you see this? Or it's a more
Yeah,
political
it's
question?
again, yeah, exactly. So again, it's not a, to be honest, technological question, because the if you really think of this, and human productivity, if anything, the total productivity has gone up a lot, and per human capita has gone up. If you look into the human history, the per human capita gone up.
but then why discrepancy is also going up? So that is very contradictory to me, because I don't see any reason why that should be it. And today, the all the fights that we are having, like whether in terms of food, we nobody should die from food today. We have enough food. Just think of this: if, for example, we have moved into the aspiration stage, there is no way that the basic survival stage, which are the food, the health, the the land, we have the solution already. The technology has already provided us all the solution. It is us human who actually, because of this redistribution of this, the advantage of this, it has not reached. I mean, so I to be honest, I think this is a fail. This is the failure as a human, that we have not been able to solve this problem. At least, yes, you can say that, okay, we probably have not been able to provide a car for someone, or everybody cannot leave that is something arguable. Like, okay, you but at least what is very basic, like the health wise, which, because you already, for example, all it needs really is how much of the percentage that they need to really share with others, the less privileged one. It has got nothing to do. Technology has given them everything it could, and we now have, like, for example, I could have understand if, like, you had only $100, and you needed $90, and you could not share $10, for example. Like, but today you have $1,000, let's say, right? 10 times, or even like more than that, and you are still are unable to share a very small 10%, or with those have nots or less privileged one, right? And this is nothing to do with technology. It is, it is a failure, than us, because I think somehow, you know we think that it, that, okay, so the more and more the wealth we have, somehow, like that, this will, only fuel our growth. But I have a feeling this is where human will learn very soon that, that you cannot have both. You somehow, the growth, to have a proper growth, you have the inclusion strategy. I know it has probably not reached to that stage, but I think human will realize very soon that if you really, until unless it will understand it is existential crisis, something it will not understand. But one day, I think definitely human civilization will understand that without having the connection, and you cannot grow. And that is why I think there will be probably a convergence where the spirituality comes, which will teach us about our connectivity, that we are all connected to each other, so we can't even damage the nature. Because if you damage, like, I remember, like, I think 97, where when I started doing my research, and the first equation, like a logistic equation, very simple logistic equation for to about chaos theory, which said that, like, if there are two, like two living being, right? One is dependent on another. If, for example, if you kill all of them, obviously you yourself will die, right? You can't do that. So we are all dependent on each other. Like, we depend on nature, we depend on other animals. We are also part of the high. We are not alone. So I think this definitely, if we do not learn this, nature will teach us by its own course of action. And we definitely, either we survive at some point of time. I hope we learn that sooner than later, or like, nature will be wiped out, because otherwise it cannot grow indefinitely. So I'm hopeful in the sense that we will have this thing, and we will learn, and we will learn to, that we are all connected, and at least the basic necessities has to be taken care of for all.
Mm. Yeah. Now, again, little bit diverting from this, like, for all, we should happen, like, things should happen. Let's say, you know, with this decision making capability, the extreme of it is self inflicting harm. Okay. Which, by choice or by lack of conscious usage, whatever way you picture it, uh, we already started created some system which is now out of our control. Let's say stock market, or let's say nuclear weapon. Okay, and so basically, creation is becoming more and more independent of creators' control. Okay, because of so much buzz and because of so much, I should not say negativity, but the like a perception around it, AI is also doing the same thing. Like we are creating AI, but AI will take control of our own, or go out of control. What do you say on that?
Yeah, I think a little bit I touched before also with a
Yeah.
similar line of question. But yeah, so I think the way I see it is when we come up with a problem, right? And then we come up with a solution. But please remember that the fundamental nature, the way that, let's think of that agent. Okay, so you that agent that will solve that problem for you, and believe that okay, if I design like that, it will solve your problem. But please remember that it will solve your problem, but it has the capability to do many things. But in our mind, when we are thinking of the solution, we have a very one-dimensional thought, because we are thinking, okay, if I have to solve this, like for example, like okay, if I have to write for example, let's say we are thousands of years before, I mean earlier, and we want to write something, so we have to invent pen. Now okay, we have to come up with an instrument which we can use to write. Now for somebody to think that okay, I can use this to kill someone, for example, let's say, like because there is a small, the sharp thing, and I can use that to kill someone, this thought I cannot prevent that, because like so I have done something. So that means the tool that we are it is not a one-to-one relationship. So it is solving one of our problem, but what we are discussing now, the capability of this, which is the capability, many things it can do, many things. And always, it is always true for any of these tools we have developed. You think of any tool, you can use in many different domains, many different ways you can use it. That's right. So it does. So in terms of task, it will do many different things. So how we use it, it depends on us. Now again, as I said that, now this is a very deep questions, like the creation to be completely independent of the creator. Again, like the question is, like if you think of free will and all, there are a lot of philosophical thing. I don't want to bring all this aspect of this. And even there are some thoughts which says that we are also we ourselves do not have any free will in that sense. So that means, like there are a lot of research that has shown that we have a limited set of action. But in terms of justice for the society and all, it's a good thought. Yes, we should have free will, but at least, even imagining that it's not a, when you think the physical free will, it don't think like a complete, like a what we understand about physics relationship, like P equals mf of, it's so rigid form. You think of little bit probably, broader sense, that yes, probably not, like random, we can do anything, but probably, limited set of choice. I think that is a better way to think of this free will. So even if we think that that is good enough to live in a society with justice, and also to take responsibility of what we do. Now this is something definitely important. Now again, as I said, that AI being more powerful than creator, AI is already more powerful in many aspects. Many tools are more powerful. When you actually use a hammer to give it something, it is already more powerful than that aspect, uh, the force it can actually apply. So we have to already remember that the tools, maybe those are limited, but with AI now we are taking, because it's a decision. Now, can it take a complex decision in in multiple fields at this point of time? No, but it will. It is, there is no reason why it will not be in, let's say, 3 years, 4 years down the line, because see, we are talking about again in like 500 years here, in terms of technology evolution, and with human evolution is billions of years. So you still see the progress. It's a tremendous progress we have seen in technology. So whether, like whether it will be better, like can we create something better than us, again, it will be part in the evolution process, right? So it will be definitely better in many aspects. But when you think about all the aspects the human has got, you know and if it is something to do, so there are two aspects. One is, we have not fully dependent on nature, we have taken some action that actually made us the progress. So there are two forces. One is the nature, and then another is what was our action, what the choice we made in the path of the evolution. Those two combining together actually made us where we are. So similar thing will happen in the technology at this point of time, right? We are what we are doing, and then there is a natural progression. No, there are no natural progression. So then, but there will be a time when we'll build a agentic architecture where they will start collaborating with themselves. They will be better by themselves by coordinating with others, and this communication with other artificial system will bring their evolution in a very different way what it is missing now. That will give them the path of another evolution path, and that will happen probably in my opinion it will happen probably 3-4 years down the line. And once it starts, then they will have in both ways, right? They will both ways, they can take action, and they can also will be they can be independent on their evolution path apart from us. So then, but to think about this, if even with those two, we are, if we do not augment that their development, it means that, and we let it go, like we don't touch them or we don't disrupt them, but then also you're thinking about a very long time, right? Evolution, growth like that, it doesn't happen very easily. It's a very long term because it has got mutation, it has many things. If so the natural fitness, it takes many iteration, to really learn over the time.
Right. Okay. Now we are actually coming to the end of it, and I would like to definitely touch upon it because it's kind of helped my life, which is spirituality. So I just go through a little bit what I kind of read somewhere. So when we ponder on spirituality, we think about higher power. Okay, let's park the consciousness side of things and all these things. Okay. And when AI will be available everywhere, we will become more receptive towards it. Okay. Even in situations where we usually trust human judgment, like GPS, the way everyone is using, it's kind of one manifestation of that. So then the question is, does this omnipresence of AI will reduce our spiritual need?
Yeah, it's a very deep question, to be honest. I think at some point of time today I mentioned that um, it has got, AI will teach us in many essence what spirituality is all about, because like whether it will converge or not, I do not know. Either it will converge or it will completely like disrupt it, but definitely it will teach us, because there is something very fundamental about spirituality, those metaphysical questions that, especially when human centric view, because most of the questions that we are asking, it has got a human centric view of the world, right? Who we are, existentialism, like what it means to be human, then to have something, or to be, right? And where we come from, and all this question, I think, even when we as AI is becoming more and more powerful, we started asking, even an atheist probably, at some point of time will be starting this question, because, like it will challenge us in those domains, in no matter what. So now the question is, what answers we'll get, whether, like whatever it is, I don't think, for any domain we'll have different answers in terms of, ultimately it has to converge in terms of yes or no, whatever it is, the whether it is science and the spirit, what the some of the spirituality, if you take the some of the fundamental aspect of spirituality, that there is a universal consciousness, because that is probably aspect of spirituality where I don't need a religion to say something that we need God or something like that. At that level where I'm just saying consciousness, that's it. Okay. So at least at that level, when at least I think we are at a stage of believe at least some consciousness is there, whether it is subjective or it is completely a function of the brain, we yet do not know. There are a lot of research going on, especially like the heart problem of consciousness or something like that, where we're trying to understand if it is completely a subjective experience. So then the physical human brain, it will be always different something, right? But at the same time, if we, for example, can understand that at least the consciousness, maybe something that we have like other fundamental particles, like we have some particles which then we may be able to understand all these different dimensions, spirituality, physics, chemistry, everything, all come up with those, like today at least we know that the gravitation, all these everything forces, they come from fundamental particles. Why not then those metaphysical aspect of things? Maybe everything are coming from those fundamental things. Maybe they are all superstring or some kind of a vibration which are making all these different you know uh, particles, right? Even in the consciousness itself is like that. So they are all superstring with different vibration. Maybe you will understand that. So ultimately at some point of time there will be nothing like a different concept. That is the way I see it, whether it is through AI or it is through that, I mean, science through AI, or like physics, empirical research, spirituality, and through all this philosophy. At least one thing will come up, that yes, probably there is a linkage between this, because currently it's like a two different dimension you're talking about. One is the spiritual dimension, the metaphysical dimension, we don't know higher level dimension, and here we are talking about this material dimension, physical dimension, and that only because we live into the three-dimensional world and we have no understanding of what this unified. So we need some understanding, and maybe all we know that all our creation will help our understanding better, and maybe at some point of time we'll be able to unify all this in a much higher dimension to understand, yes, they're all same. Maybe that is one way to look into this. Yes, so there is nothing, I see that we'll get something very very different than like from different fields, I think, because ultimately we are, I think we are all looking for some truth, and it has to be something very unique, and something converges. Otherwise there is nothing. Yes.
Okay. So with that, like Martin Luther King always, like he said, that the time is always right to do what is right. Okay. And with this positive note, we should sum up, and we are on the right path, and hopefully the whole, not only humanity, I mean, the whole clan of creatures, I think, um, with our like leading capability, we might, we are going to make a better world for all of us. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So on that, thank you,
Thank you very
Ranadhir.
much.
Thank you for your time. So as you know, this is like, if you want to live your life in your own terms, re-energize your inner software, you are in the right place. So please like, subscribe our channel. And on that, we end this podcast here. Thank you, Ranadhir.
Thank you.